All right, we're back with Chris Bartl from Bartl Strength and Conditioning. Chris, what do you got for us today?
Today we're going to continue with the second part of our hip hinge, and we're going to introduce now a load into that movement. So we're going to be working on a movement, what's called a Romanian Deadlift. It was not started in Romania, contrary to popular belief. How we got the name of that is a whole nother story. But this is the second progression of the hip hinging that I like to teach my clients. Now that we've somewhat mastered the hip hinge itself, now we're going to add an external load into the frontal plane, which is going to change the dynamic of the movement quite a bit. So what I want you to do is go ahead and grab the bar, and go ahead and turn so your back is toward me. And if you notice how Jesse grabbed the bar, one thing that he did that I would like to change is he has his palm up right here. Now, a lot of people will have their clients go with the palm up. Personally, I don't like it, because when your palms up, or what's called a supinated grip, all of a sudden you have a lot of extra stress on that bicep tendon and your bicep brachialis, and that's one thing that we really don't want. So go ahead and flip that palm around, okay? Now all of a sudden the stress off the elbow is gone and we can really focus on the movement. So in part one of the hip hinging series, Jesse really worked on trying to push his hips backwards, okay? Now with an external load in front, the dynamic of the movement's going to change. So remember the wall, Jesse. What I want you to do is get a slight bend in your knees, and again, drop the chest down and try and push your butt back where you're going to touch the wall, okay? Good. Okay, go ahead and stand straight up. Let's do about 3 more. What I want you guys to look at right here before I start to correct Jesse is remember the hip hinging video. Okay, remember the keys that we talked about. A nice arch in the back. Really trying to push his hips back. A slight bend in the knees. Okay, go ahead and stop. Let's go ahead and let's work on our corrections now for Jesse. Jesse, what I want you to do is come down nice and slow, just like you're going to do a regular movement. Look at what's going on with Jesse as he's coming down. Okay, he's not hinging at the hips, he's bending at his back. So go ahead and stand all the way up. What I want you to do is really put a good arch in your lower back. Here's one really big important key of this movement. Pinch your shoulder blades together in the back. Okay, get a nice tight upper back, a nice arch, and now push your hips back towards me. Really push the hips back, keep your shoulder blades pinched, and now drive the hips and come forward. There we go. Remember, key is in the glutes. When the hips are all the way back, okay, your butt's going to be relaxed. Start with a nice squeeze in the butt and come all the way forward. Good, let's do about 2 more. Okay, keep those shoulder blades pinched together. There we go. Notice how he's hinging at the waist more. The hips are continually moving backwards. That's going to be very, very important for this movement when you start to get into heavier loads. Go ahead and relax. The other key thing that I like to teach clients to do is, it might be hard to see, but Jesse his weight was really on the forward part of his foot, so his toes were trying to grab and dig into the ground. One little trick, this will help your squat and your deadlift as well as this movement as well. When you're doing this, to help keep your weight on the back part of your feet, you want to raise your big toe in the air. Okay? That's going to force your weight to shift all the way back onto your heels. Now you can really overload those hamstrings. Okay? So raise your big toe. Okay? Pinch the shoulder blades so you have a nice straight line. Okay? A good arch in your lower back, and let's really push those hips back even further. There you go, and right to there and up.
Oh yeah, that's a big difference.
Okay, keep that big toe raised the entire time. Really keep that big toe high in the air. Bam. Let's do 1 more. And you can see automatically right now this is a much cleaner movement. I would be comfortable as a strength coach now adding weight to the bar with Jesse, because he's in a much better position with his hips. He's not getting the strain on his lower back, and his weight is on his posterior chain, because that's what we're really trying to focus on working with.
And I feel, there's a big difference. Chris had me basically run through 3 different versions of it, right? One where I was doing it wrong, one where I was doing it almost right, and one where I was doing it correct. And the difference I felt in my back, especially from the one where I was doing it wrong, was, I felt it all in my back. I hardly felt my hips at all, which is basically how most of us go and pick stuff up, right?
Yep.
We don't put any thought into it. We just go down and grab it, just like I just did right there. There was just a completely involuntary movement, no hips at all. The second one, when Chris corrected me, I still wasn't doing it quite right, but probably 90% of the way, or 85, 90%. I could feel almost all in my hips, but still just a tiny bit in my back, right? When Chris corrected me that last one, he had me bring my toe up and really, really focus on pinching, pushing my hips back. I didn't feel my back at all. I felt just all from my hips, and it was like my back wasn't even there. It makes a huge, huge difference learning how to do these movements properly.
Exactly.
Not only just for your fitness level and doing exercises, but every day. If you're lifting, you're bending over and picking up your kids. If you're taking your pets out of the car or anything like that, right? Carrying groceries in.
Yep, anything. Any daily activity where you're going to involve your back, we want to try to make it more about the hips.
Absolutely.
One final thought on this movement in particular, there's a lot of gray area depending on who you speak to about how far you should bend over for a Romanian deadlift, whether it's with barbells or dumbbells. The safe bet, because you always want to err on the side of safety instead of being aggressive, especially if you're just learning this movement, because this movement will make you very, very sore. Okay? What I like to teach my clients is when you start to push your hips back and the weight's kind of pulling you down, go until you start to feel your hamstrings stretch, and then go 1 little inch further. So that might just be to the top of your knee, it might be to the bottom of your knee. You don't always have to take this movement all the way down to the ground. You got to understand the limitations of hamstrings and tendons of the posterior chain. You might not have the flexibility to go all the way to the ground, and it's not necessary to go all the way to the ground. That would be a good progression. Instead of adding more weight to the bar every week, try and get yourself a little deeper. So start maybe with the top of your knee. Week 2, you go to the middle of your knee. Week 3, you go to the bottom part of your knee. It's a very simple progression. You can use it as a dynamic mobility exercise to increase the flexibility of your hamstrings, but you're also going to get stronger and more range of motion at the exact same time.
That's great final thought, Chris. And I think it's very important too, because a lot of times we go in the gym and we look around and we see the person doing it, and most of the time the person we're watching isn't doing it right,
Yep.
right? And so we see them trying to go all the way to the ground, and that's not necessarily in our benefit. So where you feel the stretch, plus 1 inch.
Yep.
Awesome, Chris. We'll see you guys next time.
Sweet. This is Baker the dog.
Look at that leg go.
Leg extension.
Look at that leg go.
Leg extension.
Look at that leg go.
But now let's go for the upper chinage. Come, get it going.
Oh, oh.
There it goes. We're working on dynamic knee flexion.